when Nigeria coordinated with the French authorities, or should I say the French military, to end and dismantle the coup that took place in Benin Republic, a Nigerian military plane, a C-130, I believe, military plane, was detained in Burkina Faso, flying in its airspace. And that military plane, along with Nigerian military personnel, were grounded and detained in Burkina Faso. Well, allegedly, news has been circulated all over the internet that Nigerian military plane has capabilities of geomapping the topography of Burkina Faso. In other words, it means that that plane allegedly had sophisticated technology capable of mapping the terrain in Burkina Faso and transmitting that information live to French military authorities. Well, the backstory here is that prior to Ibrahim Traoré taking over power in 2022, Burkina Faso was heavily aligned with France, and after Ibrahim Traoré became the president, he ended that relationship and told the French military to leave his country, meaning that France lost its access to Burkina Faso's vital mineral resource that France always coveted, which is gold. And we all know that France has lost its influence in countries like Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, and even Chad. The whole of the Sahel region is rejecting France. And when that rejection began, France decided to quote the Sahelian nation of Nigeria. A lot of people have wondered why France and Nigeria's friendship has solidified even more since the Sahelian states decided to end their relationship with France. Well, if what is being reported happens to be true, then we have evidence, at least circumstantial evidence, that the reason why France has been quoting Nigeria is so that Nigeria can help it regain its influence in those former French colonies that have rejected France and kicked them to the curb. It is also a known fact that the French economy is heavily reliant on the former French African colonies for its energy, its minerals, and its oil. For instance, there is uranium in Niger that France had access to prior to Niger's rejection of France. Mali was the premier supplier of gold to France. So as France continues to lose its influence in West Africa and other parts of Africa like Madagascar, France is being forced to make extremely creative decisions and plans. That could explain why France and Nigeria are very good friends at the moment. It could also explain why President Bola Ahmed Tinubu of Nigeria earlier this year was invited for a state visit in France and was given full French national honors when he visited earlier this year, solidifying France's relationship with Nigeria. And that relationship could be a relationship forged out of desperation. France wants to regain access to West Africa. France's economy relies heavily on the resources of West Africa that it no longer have access to. Which brings the question, why can't European nations trade with African nations on an equal footing? Why can't European nations pay fairly for resources? Why does it always have to be an unequal relationship? Why should France have continued access to African resources without the infrastructure or the education or the development or the technological advancement as repayment for those resources? Why does it always have to be crooked? Why does the relationship always have to be one-sided? Why does France and European countries take advantage of Africa? If France had treated those West African countries equally, they wouldn't have rejected France for Russia and China. It boggles the mind, doesn't it? It also makes us ask that question, are we really free in Africa? I know my answer. I just want you to make up your mind whether you are or your country is free. Even Nigeria doesn't seem to be free, because Nigeria, a sovereign nation, is being made allegedly to do the dirty work of France in Burkina Faso and Benin Republic. When Nigeria has been fighting insurgency for the last 15 years and unable to solve the problem of terrorism and insurgency, Nigeria has the ability and the capability, it seems, to has the ability to get such results in less than 24 hours in Benin Republic, when it helped to dismantle the coup that happened there. If our military is so capable, why isn't our military working to help rid us of terrorism and insurgency and insecurity in our country? Why does the Nigerian army only have power and capability when it involves a former French colony? Geopolitics is a very interesting subject, and I would encourage every African, every person who belongs to that community called the Global South, I encourage you all to pay more attention to geopolitics, because once you step out of your little country and look at everything from a regional and from an international perspective, that is where you see where the game of your lives are being played out by the world powers. I am here in West Africa, and all I have to do is zoom out of northern Nigeria where I live and look at Africa from a regional point of view. I look at West Africa, and then I zoom out, I look at Africa as a continent, and then you see which world power, which country, which external force is present there. In West Africa, you will find American military bases. In West Africa, you will find French military bases. In West Africa, you will see the effect of the NATO bombing of Libya in 2011 that dismantled the government of Muammar Gaddafi, which further exacerbated the insecurity crisis that we have been facing in the Sahel region. It is all connected. All you have to do is connect the dots. Connect the dots. Follow the breadcrumbs. It all leads to a group of countries outside the African continent. What is the true purpose of foreign military bases in Africa? Is it for African security, or is it for the plunder of African resources? Connect the dots. We all went to school and we all studied history. We all know how the colonial master, Britain, used the classic divide and conquer tactic. When we think about divide and conquer, we think it is something that happened in the past. It happened during our grandparents' era. It happened when our countries were still colonies. Well, newsflash, it's happening now. Why are Muslims and Christians in Africa, especially in Nigeria, constantly hating each other? Why are ethno-religious conflicts consistently on the rise in Africa? Why is there so much distrust amongst Africa's multicultural society? Why are neighbors hating each other within the same country? Why is everyone pointing fingers at the other African? Why is everything becoming more rampant nowadays? The writing is on the wall, but a lot of people cannot read. A lot of people are still sleeping. A lot of people are not awake. And a lot of people are awake, but they have chosen the wrong side. And then also a lot of people are awake, but they are afraid to say anything. And then a lot of people are awake and are trying to wake everyone else up. But you think that they're the problem? I'm trying to help. I hope you listen.